Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Timeless closets and cabinetry where elegance meets organization. Yes, we are back with our amazing friend, Wendy Scott, who's been doing this for over 20 something years. She's the owner and a professional closet designer based out of New Jersey. She's here again to talk more about the work she does. And we may go off script today, which is fine, but it's always a pleasure having her. She's become a friend over the past few months and from Holland Township, New Jersey. Welcome back, Wendy. How are you?
I'm great, Jill. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks so much. For example, best way to contact you, timelessclosetsandcabinetry.com, correct?
Absolutely. And if you type that into Facebook or Instagram, you will get me as well. Email is wendy@timelesscc.com or my phone number, 908-975-9381.
Perfect. And you've been in the business for quite a long time. We've had some great shows here. I mean, you are just in the know, in the everything when it comes to everything about organization and closet spaces. Now, for today, I know you wanted to switch gears a little bit. So tell us a little bit about what you wanted to discuss for today.
So, tongue in cheek, there's nothing funny about this. Skeletons in the closet. And we're going to just take a deep dive and talk about addiction.
Okay.
And I think, knowledge is power, and people are so afraid to talk about it because it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And how can you, and it's everywhere. So I'm going to share a personal story and a few personal stories where that's why I told them to tell you what we were talking about so you'd have a tissue ready.
They
Um,
didn't, but
so yeah, we'll yell at Jason later.
yes.
But
Jason, bad.
bad Jason. So we're gonna deep dive. And I didn't write an outline. I'm just, mother to mother, we're gonna have an open, frank conversation. So this is what my last year has been like. I got a text message, phone call from my son's roommate. You need to check on your son. He's got a massive problem. And we went over there, and little by little, we've been noticing personality changes. I would get that phone call, Mom, my rent is too high. I can't pay my bills. I need help. And Mom, I'm starving. Mom, I need food money. And I'm just shoving money at him, because that's what moms do. How do you say no, right? But we didn't realize that there was a really deep problem. And so a really bad problem. And, he had been taking drugs. And I think that the term right now is self-medicating, 100% self-medicating. And I think my interpretation is that, we come from such a competitive family. His father still competes in sports. My husband still competes in sports. I, until a few years ago, competed. We're very, very competitive. He's got siblings, they're successful. And his identity was a little hidden. And again, this is my interpretation, this as a mom looking over. And so, controversial statement, started playing video games. And that is served a dual purpose where he found his identity, but he also found his escape from reality and from whatever was making him uncomfortable or having anxiety. And I will take one step back. I called my son and said, can I share your story? It is your story. I'll watch what I say, but I've been living in it. And he at first said no because he thought he had to speak. And he said, no, 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 you can share it. So, we went over there one day take a step back. So you play video games, right? You get trapped in this society and you stay awake till wee hours in the morning because you're just zoned in. So what happens to stay awake? You have to take a substance. And then to sleep, you have to take a substance. And then to be functional as an adult going to work, you have to take a substance. And eventually that becomes an addiction. And my heart, that's where it was. I'm a guilty mom and I'm an enabler. The first time I went to an Al-Anon meeting, it was my turn to speak. I got one sentence in and bawled my head off. I'm like, you got to move on. So I never was really able to go back. I never made that time or that commitment. But what I found was talking it through with other people, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's just so sad. So we continued where, I dragged his little butt out of bed 2 o'clock in the afternoon and dragged him to an AA meeting. But what happens is if you're not making that choice for yourself, it's not going to work. So we tried and we were on him and we were monitoring him. He actually moved back in with his father and we thought we were doing okay. He got a DUI. He had prescription medicine that did not belong to him. It was Adderall. Okay, so he's convinced he needs it. But I'm like, no, dude, you need a good night's sleep. And but that's not a good system. You don't get a DUI and have that in your car. That's really, really bad. And that was when we were like, oh my God, we didn't fix this. And we so one phone call I had with actually my niece, 25 years old, most poignant statement she ever said. I informed her what was going on. And I said, we tried to fix it ourselves and we failed. And she goes, hold on. This wasn't your problem to fix. Most poignant thing I've heard throughout this thing. This was not your problem to fix. So, we really, and this kid who makes really good money had zero to his name. And again, I'm getting my phone calls. Mom, I can't get ahead. I need money. And I'm saving him in my mind, but really I'm giving him that opportunity. I'm not holding him accountable. And the guilt as a mother, unbelievable. So he made a phone call and he's in the union, this is a huge no-no, but he called his union rep who said, we have a program now. So he called the union rep and he left him a voicemail and he said, my parents think I need to go. That was his words. My parents think I need to go. But what was amazing was when the guy called back, he called back from a cruise ship because it's so important. And he said, when he answered the phone, he goes, I need to go. So he went away to rehab. He was gone for 30 days. He came home on a Sunday. He did not come back to my house. As a mother, again, the tremendous amount of guilt. You're not welcome here. I mean, how do you say that to your child? But thank goodness I have my husband who's not just protecting me, that also protects my son because I'm an enabler. So if he comes back, I'm easily manipulated and I won't tell you the amount of money that I've handed over without thinking because it's unbearable. But how do you say no? Your son calls you and he says, I'm starving. What do you do? So I had to, thank God my husband was like, no, but also thank goodness my ex-husband said, you can stay here. And that's at the risk of his own marriage.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's staying, so he stays with his father. A trigger point.
This was when, by the way, how long
So
ago?
we started around June when we first got our first notice
Okay.
from the friend who he lost his friend over this because his personality, and my son is a gorgeous kid. He's got an amazing personality. He's one of those kids that you just kind of brush this aside because of who he is.
Yeah.
So nobody holds him accountable
Mm-hmm.
because he's just got such a great personality and you just want to love him to death. And so now we're now at the beginning of the year. I want to say February-ish. And he goes away for his 30 days and he comes back on a Sunday. And on Friday, Saturday, his dad happened to check his bank account and he knew to act funny again. Sunday, when he had gotten back, he had already purchased something. So he came out of 30 days and had already done something. And we're like, oh my gosh. And I'm going to take a step back because this, as a parent, makes me out of control with anger. He goes, Mom, I'm okay. Like, oh, I'm okay. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to take an energy drink. So I'm drinking energy drinks instead. Well, what he's drinking is something called Kratom. It's Kratum.
I've heard of it.
And so he thinks this is good because he could buy this at the gas station.
Okay.
Well, there's two things that have this gas station. There's a vape called gas station heroin that is now outlawed in 7 states. He's not on that, but just to give you an idea that it's still available. There's this Kratom, which is called garbage heroin. Not only is it expensive, it is as addictive as heroin, and it has a lot of the effects of heroin. And it is being treated across the country in all the rehab facilities because it's highly, highly addictive. At least, I believe, 2 people have died from it. But by the time the FDA catches up, they'll have something else out there. As a mother, I'm like, oh, mom, I'm safe. I bought this at the gas station. It's just an energy drink. And I drink energy drinks. I drink something when I work out. So I'm like, okay, but then you're seeing him blow through $50, $50, $50, $50. And he has no money in his bank because he's drinking this and it's highly, highly addictive. So anyway, he went back for another 30 days. And I spoke to a counselor and she's like, well, where did he go when he got out the first time? I said, he went back to his dad's house. And nothing against his dad whatsoever, because
But
he has the heart and his poor saint of a wife has allowed this. That
again, all enablers, which we've all have been in our lives. And it's so hard to say no to your child, which you had the strength and you had the help of your husband to help you with. You gave him the chance, his dad, and the sweet wife. But again, that's enabling. But go ahead.
it's enabling, but as a parent, where else is your child going to go?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the alternative. I mean, where else is he going to go? And so the one thing she said was, he can't go, it's not against his dad, but he can't go back to that same environment because that's where all the easy access and all this different stuff is available. The same what internal pressures. And again, this goes back to I'm self-medicating for whatever reason he feels he's upset with, or anxiety, or his escape from life. I mean, we all love Jimmy Buffett. I want to, forget about life for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but some people have an addictive personality. And I think that addictive personalities, I feel runs in my family. So he's got a sister, he's got 2 half sisters, he's got 2 stepsisters, or 2 step siblings. Nobody has an issue. They can handle whatever, but he can't for whatever reason. And that's okay. Everybody's different. So it's learning how to cope with all this and figuring out what to do next. So from that 30 days, he went to a sober living. And he was doing pretty good there. He was able to go away for a weekend. Well, guess what he did? He had a little pot, he had alcohol. So then they send you away for 10 days and then you come back. And, okay, sober living
Because
is
they come
amazing.
back and test you, right? I'm assuming they test you.
When you're a sober living, you're tested. I don't know if it's weekly or daily. I'm not
Okay.
sure. So he was tested and he was honest. And but you're in a space where you're held accountable. You're in a different location away from everything. He actually was sent to Pennsylvania, and you're in a place where everyone else has certain things, is under the same guidelines. So you're not alone. And you have 6 hours. The first step is like 6 hours of counseling. So you can't work yet. Well, we're watching unemployment like you're running out. We're watching because he's in the union. We're watching you have to be in for a certain amount of time in order to hold your benefits. We're like watching all that. We're like, dude, once that 10 days started over, he was going to be out of everything. So you got to really watch that. And then there was a few times where, okay, there's people there that are good people, but there's also people there that are required to be there. He had a knife put to his throat. He had his things stolen. I have a good friend whose partner was sent to a different rehab. And he said it was gang-like, that you had to surround yourself with a group so that you were safe. I mean, holy cow. And frankly, I'm not going to say the recovery center my son went to. His was good. However, I was informed that one of the wives smuggled pot into the facility. I'm like, come on. Anger, guilt as a mother, this has been the most insane thing I've ever gone through. I know that, he couldn't get his anxiety medication, so he bought kratom again. And I'm like, you can't do that. Just you got to find another way. But it's just one of the things is, they say, the kids are like, oh, just try it one time, right? I tried to get this girl on, but she had an appointment, and there's this lovely closet designer named Tara, And Tara has shared, she's in Kentucky, and she has shared her family story. She's been very vocal. Um, Tara was telling about how, I don't remember if it was high school or college, but her sister went on a date, and her sister's date gave her heroin one time. And it only took one time for her to become addicted. She spent her entire life in and out of rehab, and she had a child. The child had to be raised by someone else. And last month, Tara's sister lost her life to addiction. One time. But the cool thing about Tara is that she's been vocal. She has shared, she doesn't care. She's like, the message, knowledge is power, has been um, more important to share. I see your eyes. I'm like,
Of
my
course.
eyes are like, I know, I'm like, sorry.
Okay.
But and that's the thing, is like, nobody talks about this. So like right now, my son, I think he's in a good place. He's at his dad's, he's being checked in, he's going to meetings and stuff like that. Again, back to the guilt of as a mom.
Mm.
His dad's going on vacation. He's like, can he come and stay with you? And I'm like, I said something to my husband. My husband's like, no. And at first I was like, I'm a horrible parent. He can't even come for a week. How do I say no? But I took a week to reflect. We talked about it again. And it's not just protecting me. It's not just protecting our home. It's also protecting my son, because I know what's going to happen. Mom's a pushover. He needs help. I'm just going to pay for it. But what I'm doing is I'm actually paying and giving him no accountability. I'm giving him the means to
Yeah.
slip up if he needs to. Like, what we're going to do is he's still going to stay. He's not going to be staying, and his dad's alone. His stepsister's there. He will be able to come over. He's going to come over for dinner. We're going to, check everything, check the bank account, and he'll have an accountability. And it's not just going to teach us that when he's ready to move out on his own, that he can. It's going to teach him that he can. And, the sad thing is, it's very rare for someone to go into rehab and it fixes it. It's very rare. They're going to relapse. Very rare does it work the first time. You got to go in because you want to, not because you're going in for someone else. You got to want to get better. You got to be committed to make changes. I spoke to a counselor the other day. I was at a closet appointment, and I'm walking through and I see a sign on her wall that says rehab specialist. And I was like, whoa, let me tell you my story. And she goes, one thing I'm going to tell you, no one can drink around your son for a year. It's not fair. She goes, it's not, he's seeing everyone be okay. He wants to be okay too. But you got to protect him until he can protect himself. So it's like, okay, so, we're going to go on vacation. Your favorite place, we're headed to the Outer Banks. And I'm like, do I bring my son? I know there's going to be alcohol. That's not fair. Can he handle it? You can't make any,
Yeah.
my son is a black and white kid. You cannot be gray. You can't like, well, we're away. It's okay to have it. We're watching you. You got to be black and white. You cannot have any in between. So it's just been, I had a bad year, but you didn't know this part.
No, I thought the
It's,
breaking the ankle, the foot, that what? Oh my gosh.
it's been you go on vacation and you're like, all right, I want a Jimmy Buffett. I want to forget about life for a while, but that's not, you know, if you can't give it up, maybe you do have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to another podcaster the other day, and she was talking about addiction. And she goes, that with all the sex trafficking that happens, what they're doing to these girls and these kids is they're popping them up with drugs. And then when they're done with them, they just kick them off to the street. Well, now they're drug addicts. What are you doing? I mean, it's not just the random kid, it is everywhere. The few people I've shared my story with, they're like, oh, I have a family member. I've been there, done that. I've got a family member. I've got a good friend, but nobody talks about it openly because it's a form of punishment.
Embarrassing. Look,
Embarrassing.
I grew up in a household where my father did cocaine, did marijuana. My parents did not get along. It was a horrible childhood in a sense where they fought all the time, and it was brutal. Now, I've never even smoked pot. I've never
Same.
touched a drug because I realized at a young age, got goosebumps. I don't want to be like this because my
Right.
brother, who is now 48, is still a mess up from all this. You have no idea. When I tell you, my mother enabled because my sister was older. It was me, the baby. Kept, at 13 smoking pot, leaving school, high school, never kicked him out. And here I am, this little girl saying, Mom, put his stuff on the lawn, do it. And I now as a mom, I have two 7 and 9 year old. I see how hard it is because I'm seeing one kid struggling, and I keep saying, these are the signs that my brother had back then. I'm really worried about my 9 year old. That's a whole nother story. He's not into drugs or anything, but the defiancy, the issues, I can see tendencies like my brother. So we spent my whole life, my mother enabled, not until she died of cancer almost 8 years ago on her deathbed. The last month of her life, she says, F him. I don't want to see him. Like she finally realized she did so much. She tried everything. And here he is now living in North Carolina. He's homeless. He was just up here for like 2 months. I went to North Carolina to see him. He's staying at a friend's house. He's not there. He came up here and what do we do? Do we let him in our house? Do we not? Let him in a few times. Big fight happened in front of my kids. He drank alcohol. He choked my son and pushed him. Like, I'm not kidding. So he's been living in his car. Now he's got a court case with his ex-girlfriend down in North Carolina. He had to be there for today. And it's like, then he's at my father's house with my sister. We're enabling. Last year we went to Great Wolf Lodge. He flipped out, almost started to hit me because I accused him of stealing money a long time ago. Security came. My special needs nephew punched two TVs in the room, got blood everywhere. It's like my sister slept in the car with her kids. And like, when I tell you that everyone has something, we have something, and I appreciate you sharing it. And it's not easy. And I'm dealing with this now at 46 with my brother still. My mother enabled him his whole life. And I also find myself now worrying about my son, exactly what you're saying, all these signs at a young age. And as a mom, you want to enable. And I always say, I'm going to be that mom to kick my son to the curb. Here he is at 9. And I'm like, damn, it's going to be hard. I see what my mom went through. If it goes down this path of him being so defiant. And so the next step would be drugs or alcohol. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I feel for you. I also my brother's ex-girlfriend who has a daughter with the son who was a heroin addict. My brother found him on the floor. He passed out. This is maybe 8 years ago. His leg was black underneath him. They had to cut his leg open. They thought he wouldn't survive. He's 34 now. Guess what? He's on the streets in LA. His mother had to make the decision, just let him go. And he's still alive. He's had so many of those close calls, but he's on the street. He's selling his body to other men. Like the mother tells me, like, she's like, this is what he does. I can't worry about it anymore. She's worried her whole life. She had him when she was like 14, but we all have something. I appreciate you sharing all this. And now back to your son. So when is the week that he's back with the
Oh,
vacation?
he's
Dad's going
so
away when?
he's gone away in another week. So not till next week does he go away.
Is he now, did
Um,
he get his job back or no? He can't.
yeah, he
Okay.
because this is everywhere, and you've got to be honest, not just with yourself but with everyone, right? and and that's one of the things that we've been telling him this whole time. You've got to be honest with everyone. So they did say to the boss, hey, this is what's going on. And the boss said, my own child went through that. I have a spot for him when he's back to being okay. So he's back to work. So that's good.
So
He's
he's
got
not home all day.
eyes.
So he has stuff to do. Okay.
He's going to work. He's going to a gym. He's going to meetings.
Goosebumps
But the chances of relapse,
are extremely high.
it's almost a given. Because technically relapse number, how many? And it's just it's so hard to see. It's so hard. I mean, first of all, thank God I have my backbone, which is my husband, because what would I do? I mean, you just to give money, I have to lie. So if you are lying, you probably shouldn't be doing it, right? But I have to say, if I didn't have that, I'd be back in the same position. My son would be living here. I would probably be paying for everything. I'd be enabling this to happen, and I'm a pushover. So I think he's in a good place. I hope he's in a good place. I try to be as optimistic and forgiving and just supportive as can be. But I have to look and stop. I got to take the blinders off And, I should get back to a meeting. Again, it's been super cathartic talking about it, super good talking to friends who are like, hey, I've been there. This is what you should look at. This is what to do. And people tell me, you can't do that. You're an enabler. You got to stop that. I'm a mom. What do you want me to say? Kick them to the curb? I couldn't do that. I mean, it's been a year. It's been a year
I'm
for
sure.
sure. And again, the whole reason of sharing this was that so many people are going through it. Nobody talks about it. But I mean, just if I can tell one mom to watch out for kratom, to me that's a win.
I'd never heard of it until today. So later I'm going to Google Kratom. I already wrote it down.
Let me tell you something. I ran into one of my son's high school friends last night, and he happened to tell me he had lost his job, he fell into alcohol, and his mother said, dude, what's going on? Are you okay? And he had a family member who was a drug addict who is in a good place now. The kid's great. But he watched that kid growing up and he admitted to his mother, I got a problem. And they got through it. And I talked about my son and I said, kratom, and he knew exactly what it was. And it was like, holy crap. It just makes me so angry. You can just, they think it's okay. Not to downplay any of the other things, but this one, gas station heroin. I mean, are you kidding me? Garbage heroin. It's just sad. But skeletons in the closet. I know I totally went off topic, but it's been bothering me for a while, and I really wanted to share it because I think we need to just talk about it more openly.
Ah,
I want to be like Tara. I want to share the story because so many people are going through this. Like, who would have known about Jill, right?
yeah, yeah. It's just, it's crazy. It's crazy. My
You
brother
can,
is still struggling at 48, and then we still enable. We, after what he did last year, let him back into my house. And he did this with my son the other night. He took the alcohol bottle. I had to look at my cameras, hear the clinking, and he was drinking alcohol. I left him alone for a half hour with my children in the pool and hot tub to run to Costco to get seed, to seed my lawn. And I come home and it's a big fight because my little boy was trying to drive my little boy fooling around. And my brother grabbed my son. He should not grab him. My son supposedly said, go F yourself to him at 9, which is not right. But that's my
right.
job to go to deal with this, to go upstairs, to have me and my kids barricaded in a bathroom and his own daughter, because he's trying to push in the door and we're in the bathtub. My little son is 7 screaming, I want to kill myself. I'm going to vomit. I'm like, this was all last week. I'm like, what is going on? What I allowed him in. I said, I'm going to call the cops or I'm going to like, what am I going to do? Didn't. He left. He's in court now in North Carolina, but still. Then I had a family party last weekend, and guess who came? My brother. Like, we let him back in. He's living in his car. What do we do? It's just, I can totally empathize and understand with this. And, so
And we don't want to change who we are, Jill. We want to still hope. We
I
still want to
know.
take hope for the best and think that the best is going to happen.
But
But
yep,
man, is it hard?
I know. Well, I got
It's
to
hard.
commend you for opening up today, and I'm wishing you and your family the best and praying for you all. And the fact you're opening up and speaking, that's the best thing you could do. Let people know they're not alone, and to get the help they need. And thank you again, Wendy Scott. Great conversation. Sorry you're going through this, but we all do go through something, and it makes us stronger. It's going to, and in the end, it'll all be okay. You did everything you can do, and that's what we have to feel okay knowing. Like when my mom passed, she knew she did everything she could, and it was like, it's all we could do. As much as we love them, they're our kids. I commend you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would love to hear an update next time as well. And
Absolutely.
how can we reach out to you if it's only a closet? It's not only a closet. It's
It's
about
not only a
it's
closet.
not. It's about life. And thank you for sharing all of this, Wendy Scott. If we want to reach out to you, tell us how we can.
You can find me on all the platforms at Timeless Closets and Cabinetry on Instagram, Facebook, and my website. And you can get me at 908-975-9381 or Wendy at
Perfect.
timelesscc.com.
Thank you. Sending you lots
Have a
of
great
love.
week.
Mom to mom. Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network. on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.